I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, May the 29th. So much for that. Your placements did not impress. They were very bullish on the cattle and feed report last Friday before the big long holiday. We'd been fear-mongering about the placements for the last several weeks, knowing that your April placements were going to be huge. They had them guessed as high as 113.5% on the average of the analyst guess, and they come in less than 109. That is bullish. It was hard to recognize any bullishness in the market here on after Tuesday, whenever your markets kind of came back after the long Memorial weekend. Maybe it was because your May 1st inventories were the largest since the series began, even though they were less than 103. But still, I've told you guys 100 times that there's always going to be something that's the biggest, the newest, the lowest, the biggest change ever since the series began. They advertise that every single month that we come along air, and now you're starting to see why I hate cattle and feed reports. Gather up all that information and then keep it behind a cover, and then pull the cover back on a day and then wait for the impact of the market. Why not just allow the information to rise as they collect it? I don't understand why we have to have a big unveiling of the cattle and feed report every month on the end of the week, and then wonder and worry whether it's going to impact the market, which it seems like it always impacts the market negatively if it's a bearish report, and we barely ever squeeze any positive out of it if it's a bullish report. That's where we're at on that. Look at the board. For Tuesday, June live cattle futures up just 37 cents at 111.55. August was down 17 at 107.77. August feeder cattle down a buck even at 142.22. September was down $1.20 at 142.67. You look off out there at March 2020, $140.80, and that just looks awful cheap to me, guys. Let's look at the weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region. 85,200 head. We finally beat the year ago volume. That's only the second or third time all year we beat the year ago volume, but that was just a blip there near the holiday week at only 46,300 head. But at 85.2 is not really as big as we need to be. We'd like to be closer to 100,000, if not over. But let's look at your live steer weighted average price in the 5-area feeding region, negotiated with a range from 114 to 118 live. Your weighted average price on steers was 115.78. That was down 87 cents from the previous week. Your dress steers had a range from 183 to 188 with a weighted average dress price of 184.79. That was down $1.08. Tuesday we had a few sales just in Iowa and Nebraska, just a few loads of cattle sell at 186. Other than that, it's been very, very quiet so far this week. But I think your packers were just kind of holding back, making sure that there wasn't going to be any bullish signals come out of that cattle and feed report before they started calling around, kind of seeing what everybody has for sale this week, and lying to them about how many they need and how many they're not going to buy, or if they are, or they're full, or somebody else is going to sell them, or just a lot of manipulation goes into that whole process, and you guys know what I mean. But 103,200 head sold in your nationwide negotiated sales. About 23% of those were for 15 to 30 day delivery. Your contracts are what's holding everything back. Contracts are at or above year-ago levels for last year through fall. And we've got what they had total contracts for each month last year, and we are either at that level already or we've surpassed that level for all the way through fall. You look at your August. Right now, we've got 224,000 contracts written for August. Last year total, it was less than 150,000. So that's where they're going to set you up, and that's where you're not going to have any leverage to trade even as we get into August. that should be the tipping point where we ought to be able to get supplies kind of back in the cattlemen's favor. But a lot of market-ready cattle to come out this summer. But let's look at some other things that's happened in the market. Your flooding has been horrible. The entire state of Oklahoma is under disaster due to flooding damages. You go up north, I-29 there, north of St. Joe, going up towards Omaha. It's closed yet again. Just inches and inches and inches of rain fell over the weekend in our Midwest and the northern plains, all the way through down into your Ozarks. It's just terrible. I tell you what, a lot of flooding all across the middle section of the United States. I want to mention, and I want to let the good people at Fort Smith Stockyards at Fort Smith, Arkansas know that we're thinking about them. Look at this right here, and I tell you what, they're kind of in a low spot, but I was talking to the auctioneer there today, and he said, they don't ever remember it coming up into any of the buildings, and right now they've got it about 4 foot deep in the ring. So, sure like to see that as a growing stockyard. They're starting to sell a lot more cattle. They've got a good market there, and we hope that they get back to business as soon as they can. But my gosh, it's just this water is just stacked up everywhere. You look at your crop progress report, due to the wet conditions, is way behind. For corn planting, the latest that come out this week, 58% of the corn has been planted. That compares to 49% last week, 90% last year, and also 90% for the 5-year average. So that's how far we are behind. Ohio only has 22% of theirs planted. South Dakota only 25% of theirs. You look at emergence of your corn crop, only 32% has emerged compared to 69% both last year and for the 5-year average. We're way behind on that. But I don't ever bet against your American corn farmer not to be able to produce a bumper crop in any kind of conditions. They'll plant that shorter day corn, and it might have as good or better. They're not going to be lacking of moisture, that's for sure. So just because of all this weather we've had and everything doesn't mean we're going to have a complete bust in your corn crop when we get it to harvest and start putting it in the bin. We've had a lot of it stacked up in the bin already, but a lot of that has gotten flooded. But the cattleman has enjoyed cheap feed for several years here now, and we may see a significant increase in your corn. It was up big here to start this week, but we'll just have to see how it kind of plays out. Let's look at some of your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the day on Tuesday, sitting at 141.41. That was down 89 cents from the holiday weekend. Didn't have a lot of big sales on Tuesday. OKC West had their calf sale only around 2,000 head. Not a good comparison there. You remember they were flooded out a week ago and just sold what few calves they had on the Wednesday feeder sale. Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains, that's another wet area. At southern Missouri, northern Arkansas is bad all the way through there, but they had a sale, had several cattle, 3,300 there in West Plains. The yearling feeders were steady to firm. Calves were very uneven, just depending on kind and quality, and uneven orders there for those calves, and the market ranged from $4 lower to $4 higher. But I want to mention that Western Video Market is partnered with DV Auction. We take their internet bids. They are going to be having one of their sales here Thursday, May the 30th, and you can view and bid that on WVM Cattle for Western Video Market cattle, or you can go to DV Auction and view and bid there too. And they also had a schedule change. They are adding another sale on Friday, June the 14th. Because they had some needs for that, just because of the weather, because of the market, the way things are going, especially where they're big out in the western United States. They are going to add another sale, and if you want to make plans to get your cattle on that sale, get a hold of your representative. Let's talk about some individual quotes. Happened on Tuesday. Don't talk about heifers a lot, but they had a big long string at Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky. Mostly black heifers, pretty good kind. 246 head of heifers, one whack, 841 pounds. This is in Kentucky, people, at 124.40. Unionville Livestock Market, Unionville, Missouri, had yet another consignment of several loads of cattle from Rockin' R there in Lucerne, Missouri. They always top the market. This time they had 180 head, 905 pounds at 137 1/4. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.